Great. Here with Jeff Brunski, who's the Vice President of R&D at Srixon. Going to talk through some of the iron updates and the new woods. Srixon, the quality of the product has stood out the last few years. With the irons in particular, it's been a nice progression in product, and there's been a story to that progression. So, just the pure quality of the heads and the simplicity to the line has been a great selling point. And I'd say quality performance is there.
We will not sacrifice on feel or looks. We want it to be, like you said, that's quality.
And with that, when you're going through those sort of updates every couple of years with the product, what's the hardest bit with that? Is it a case of keeping the aspects that work well, wanting to innovate, but then not go outside of what the brand's kind of got a pattern of development with?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I think as engineers, we're always pushing the envelope. We want to enhance performance, but sometimes we'll have to rein it in for feel reasons or things like that. Like we could add a little more ball speed. Like, nah, it just doesn't feel right. So yeah, it's making those trade-off decisions.
And within the range of we'll go from start the ZX7. So there's the Z Forge, which is a straight blade, which there's not an awful lot you can do with.
Right.
A little bit of weight distribution, but I guess move to the 7. There's a little bit more of a progression into the ZX7 with the muscle bar in the middle and a little bit more of a cavity.
Right. That's what we're calling pure frame. So this is a player's cavity. There is weight moved, and we're looking at MOI numbers and trying to make this more forgiving. But what we've done is add thickness here and here. It's 80% thicker than it was in the previous generation. So a significant amount of thickness added there. And we're finding from all of our research and testing with better players that just feels better.
Yeah. And it's actually quite a lot of, to create that, quite a lot of weight saved either side. So actually quite a lot of, say with that much thicker in the center, quite a lot of weight distribution change.
Yeah, and you can see it. There's weight high and low, there's weight out on the toe. We're trying to make it a more forgiving, but workable. This is still the most popular iron on tour for our tour set.
And with that, it's not an iron head that's got fast face tech to it. I think that's one of the impressive things with the Srixon. This head, over the iteration over the years, has been the ball speed from this head.
Yeah.
And how you achieve that without a fast face.
It is a single piece forging, and it's not jacked on the lofts.
Yeah.
So, it's not making leaps and bounds in ball speed, but that's not what that player needs. That player wants to hit the number. Hit that window.
Yeah.
So we're not messing with things like center of gravity or just trying to go for distance on that iron.
Which for fitters like us that know how well this product has worked over the years, that's always a relief actually when things don't kind of shift too far.
Right, you're used to that. Yeah.
And it's nice when you know a product, you know what it does, and it doesn't go over there somewhere.
Exactly right.
And then into the 5.
Yeah, the 5 it's a forged body, forged body just like the ZX7, but this one we put a high strength steel face into it. So we do look to get more ball speed, more distance. So it's a little bit of a balance between that feel, that performance, the workability, but let's get more ball speed.
And if you had to adapt the frame of the head to facilitate the faster face and kind of strengthen that up at all?
This one, we have the faces a little bit bigger. We actually grew the blade length by about 1 millimeter, which is a subtle refinement, but it's something we were just tweaking to try to make this line flow better through all the models.
Yeah.
But you end up with a little bit of a bigger hitting surface and a little bit of a hotter face.
Cool. And probably the biggest change is into the ZX4. Now that was the head that was quite a large head. It was quite a shift in terms of shape from the other models, whereas this is so much more of a refined shape. Has it been updated materials that allowed you to shrink the shape down and keep that forgiveness element to it?
There's actually a method that's probably too complex to really describe quickly, but the way we've figured out where people are hitting the face and where mass can be placed, it's not done by an engineer anymore, it's done by a supercomputer with an engineer overseeing it. So actually, we squeezed more MOI into this head, even though it's a smaller shape, using that tool.
So I think that's going to be a massive aspect. The blending of the set now, where we can go to this head, which creates a little bit more flight, that much more forgiveness, a little more power in there, but not have to go to something that looks entirely different to the rest of the range. And similar with the driving iron, the ZXU, I've got an old version of it.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what it goes back to. I want to say it might even be the 18.
85?
I think, well, it could even be the 65. I mean, it goes way back, and I don't really want to change it.
Yeah.
But the beauty with the Srixon is they've always had that softer feel, which is why I'm into it. Is the ball speed, the forgiveness, and the feel has always been a level above everything else.
Yep, I think there's a lot of the forging and the materials we use, but also that V-sole, that Tour VT sole is something that people don't realize how much that affects feel. Now you're getting in and out of the turf more easily. So that's something that we differentiate ourselves and people don't quite realize. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, and very much. I mean, that's pretty unique to Srixon in the way that you use that sole progression. It's softened off over the years a little bit. I guess as the soles have got a little bit wider, it hasn't had to be quite as peaked.
Well, we fine-tuned it. I couldn't say that's universally true. We've introduced these heel-toe notches. That's giving a little bit more versatility. That's in the utility now. So we're kind of always tweaking it each generation, but the essence of the technology is mostly unchanged.
So iron-wise, again, these are due into our studio in the next week or so. Can't wait to get our hands on those and get testing out.
Yeah.
And then there's the wood change as well.
Yeah, should we grab some drivers?
So I think the wood side of the things is always where, I think Srixon have been underrepresented based on the technology that they've put in. I think going way back to the W403s, things like that, the ball speeds were always very high off of those.
Yeah.
And they've been, rightly or wrongly, the last few, because of how good the irons are, the irons have sort of come to the fore and taken away a little bit of the focus off the woods.
I think there hasn't been a lot of focus on the woods, and hopefully that changes this generation. And if you think about it, we've won 2 majors recently. We won 3 out of 4 majors in the LPGA Tour this year. So I think the word is getting out. Yeah.
I think what was notable having them in back end of last year and doing a bit of a brief test with them was the spin stability on the 5 that I hit then. And we got the 3 models here. Now one of them, the ZX5 LS, is questionable as whether we're going to see that in Europe, but we've got it here nonetheless to talk about. But I think hearing them yesterday at demo day, the difference in flighting between the 5 and the 7 was really noticeable, but the stability in the ball speed and the spin stability of the 5 as well is very impressive.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I think our goal was to have 3 different models that you could get whatever the trajectory you need for your game, but across all of them, we want ball speed as high as possible across the whole face. That's the rebound frame technology. We want them to feel stable for you. And they're not all super high MOI. It's varying degrees, and that's not necessarily what you want if you're a better player who's looking to shape the ball. But yeah, all very consistent from a ball speed standpoint.
And you won't get that. If you wanted to change the flight, something's got to give you to get
the
flight down.
Exactly.
And I think the stability of the 5, and with the rebound frame, is that just to go into the tech of that, so we can explain to the viewers in terms of what's incorporated into that. Is that a complete change in the way the face is bonded with the body?
I liken it, I'll start kind of simple and then get more complex. We think of it like 2 trampolines where the face is flexing, that's a trampoline, but then we want the entire head to flex almost like a trampoline, and that's going to help you on off-center impacts. And it ends up, through the analysis, becoming a more efficient transfer of energy. So it's where we're putting thickness, the materials we're using, the stiffness and flexibility we're putting into different regions of the club head. It's all tuned together to work to deliver ball speed.
But when you're developing that, what comes first? Is it the tech on the face that you then need to develop the body to deal with, or the ability to do something with the body that then allows you to do something with the face?
That's a great question. It all happens together because one thing affects another. So do we want to go with a titanium crown or a carbon crown? We don't even think that's actually secondary to what stiffness should exist in this part of the crown versus that crown. Now that we identify that, how do we achieve that? Is it a certain thickness or a structure or a material? So it kind of moves along in its progression that you kind of have to juggle everything all at once.
So those are drivers.
Yep.
Fairway was incredibly strong flight out of the previous model. I think that was one of the things that when doing the testing and then getting it into the studio and testing out how low spin the previous ZX series was.
Yeah, they're low spin, they're high ball speed, they're really far for distance. I think that's something that also the market hasn't quite realized yet how good that thing is.
It was almost too strong. Yeah, that was almost the kind of the if you were to call it an issue, is that getting that flight up a little, and that note, the current note to be launched is a little bit high.
No, that's been a challenge for literally some tour players. We've had to dial them up in loft a little bit of, it's going too far. It's actually not what I need. Yeah.
One of the complaints less likely to get from
Yeah,
the tour
usually,
guys.
usually not something you hear from a player.
And is that something you've been able to incorporate any of the updated tech into the drivers moved into the fairways, or is it a completely different look at the fairway?
That rebound frame, that way of looking it ahead to think how can I make it more efficient, that analysis applies to both of these models.
Yep.
So yeah, there's going to be great ball speed in both of these. The hybrid is a really nice player shape, but it's actually a little bit more forgiveness built into it. That actually helps ball speed too. Yeah. So both of them, we just encourage people, put them on the launch monitor, put them in the mix, and they should stand for themselves.
Jeff, thank you so much for the insights. It's great to get the message out there. I think Srixon and company is one that really should be in the forethoughts of people with the wood side of things. So we'll be getting these in the next week or so. Come in and try them out and see for yourself.